Welcome to Christianity.org.uk's Coffee and Chat. Please do like and subscribe to this page for future updates. This is a different format of Coffee and Chat to the past months. Instead of a live conversation, we have interviews with 3 people who share their responses to the question, what does Christmas mean to me? We all know that Christmas this year will be very different to what a normal Christmas has looked like in previous years. It may have brought home to us what Christmas really means to us, our families, and our friends. Our first interview this month is with Reverend Ellis Matthews, who is Vicar of St Mary Osterley with St Luke's Hounslow in West London. He shares how he and his parish are rediscovering something of the meaning of Christmas in the midst of COVID. We then hear from Becca Bias, a chaplain with Methodist Homes in Nottingham. She reflects on the ways in which the impact of COVID on the care home she serves has shaped their Christmas this year. And finally, we hear from Sophie, a Christian in Southampton, who reflects on the mixture of joy and grief that makes up what Christmas means to her family. So I hope you will continue with us as we explore what Christmas means to us. Great, it was great to have Ellis with us. Ellis, do you want to just introduce yourself and say something about where you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name's Ellis Matthews and I'm a parish priest, a vicar in West London, and have been at my church for coming up to 2 years.
Great. So the question we're asking everybody in this session is, what does Christmas mean to you? So what's your first kind of initial reaction to that question?
Yeah, I think the unique thing for me about Christmas, particularly in church and being a priest, is that whereas a lot of the time I feel like my role is to help people and convince people to believe in God and to follow Jesus, Christmas, the message to me is more about how God believes in us. And that's something I've been trying to reflect on and trying to exude and express in the lead up to Christmas in previous years and thinking about this year.
So in practical terms, what does that look like? Or what has that looked like the last couple of years that you've been in your church?
I think so. The last couple of years, the lead up to Christmas and all the events that we organise tend to be about gathering people. They tend to be about putting on something, whether it's a nativity service or a carol service that people will want to come to, and trying to kind of gather the local community, people's relatives who are visiting, and saying, come in, you're really welcome, let's sing some carols, let's tell the Christmas story. And then you get like 2 or 3 minutes to give a little message where you say, look, God loves you, that's what Christmas is all about. God sent his son into the world with this amazing story of the Messiah because God really believes in us and is interested in us and in our stories and didn't want to leave it in the mess that we made of it. So it's kind of a paradox, isn't it? Because I think, and this year is very, very different. Mm. So this year, the ability to gather and the ability to kind of do events or services where we can attract as many people as possible in our local community is going to be really challenging. So I'm still musing over what that's going to look like. But I wonder, Liz, if it will be more authentic this year, because more true to the first Christmas. If you think about it, what is the message of the first Christmas? I've been thinking it's about connection and it's about community. The Gospels, when they tell the story, Matthew and Luke, well, how does that message of the Messiah of hope first get brought? It gets brought in 2 ways: through an angel or angels appearing to Joseph in Matthew's Gospel, appearing to Zechariah and Elizabeth and Mary in Luke's Gospel. And it appears through a star, like the universe and these angels are connected. And then all these other characters get connected too, like the Magi from the East, connecting two different civilizations. The shepherds get thrown into the mix as well. All these different groups suddenly are connected through this story of hope, of a Messiah, of salvation, which is like bundled together in a baby, but carries on. And a community is built around those things. A community that from the outset has to face opposition, because this king suddenly issues a decree that all the infant males have to be murdered. And so this community already has to overcome in the very early days. And I mean, those themes that I think are there in the Bible are the themes that we're living with today. How do we connect when we're facing this virus where you can't touch people, where you have to keep a distance between people, where, well, we can connect online, but the meaning of connection in a church building or around a Christmas tree or however we would love to do it, those rituals that we have, is challenged, is kind of what's the meaning of it? And we're a community that is dispersed, but we're having to overcome something that's really, you know, an existential threat. It's like it's making us think about how we love people, because actually not seeing people can be a way of, or wearing a mask is a demonstration that we love people. And I suppose that's a lot more true to some of the themes that I see in the Christmas story, that it's about overcoming, it's about holding on to hope, it's about being on the move. Because like that holy family that's birthed at Bethlehem straight away goes off to Egypt to escape the danger, and then is on the move again to Nazareth. And then Jesus, as he grows up, is constantly, it seems, always on the move. And that cuts against, I think, a lot of our Christmas rituals, where it's like, well, no, we do this the same way every year. We watch the same movie. We go to the same nativity play where we know the story, and we do it over and over again. And that connects us, because it connects us to our, I don't know, our childhood, our upbringing, our community, all those things. Well, we're going to have to be a bit more dynamic this year. And that's exciting in a way, really, really difficult in another way.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say to members of your congregation who are feeling quite apprehensive, perhaps disappointed and anxious about this Christmas?
I would say let's go back to the story and see what meaning we can get from it. Let's go back to that story where people hadn't seen angels or heard messages of prophets for hundreds of years before the angel came to Mary. And let's hold on to that hope that starts really small in somewhere like a back street kind of manger. Let's go small, lean into that. And from that story, can we rekindle our connection with Christmas, our connection with Jesus? And are we prepared to sacrifice some of those things that we would love to have? I mean, love is all about sacrifice, I think. And maybe by doing that this year, we'll appreciate them more next year. And yeah, let's go online and see how that goes, and enter into the fun of a bit of a wilderness Christmas. And I don't know what the outcome will be, but I'm kind of intrigued to find out.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really helpful. Thanks, Ellis. And I think the thing, that neither of us know right now, as we're recording this, we don't know what the restrictions are going to be for Christmas. We don't know whether churches are going to be open for Christmas. But could you say a little bit about what you have got planned at the moment, kind of your contingencies, or what you're hoping you might be able to do for Christmas in your congregation?
Yeah, well, what we do know is that even if the restrictions are lifted, there will be some people who can't or who don't already have the ability to kind of get to a place. So we'll prepare some materials for worshipping and praying, moving through Advent and Christmas at home. I've got the Church of England's latest offering for the 12 days of Christmas. And I like the kind of let's extend Christmas into its 12-day format, which is the right thing to do. So we'll give those out and deliver things to people who are maybe less able to move around. And then the flip side is for Advent, we're organising a trail around our parish where people will decorate windows in their houses, and there'll be at least 24 of those for people when they're exercising or when they're having their kind of outdoor time to traipse around and hopefully see them all. So those are two things. A lot of the other stuff is up in the air, and we'll wait and see. I imagine a lot of it will be online, and what we do in our church buildings will be a bit smaller and simpler. I think we're also hoping to send out some meals to people who, again, we have a lunch club in the church hall usually, and so we're going to try and take that to people where they're at rather than do the kind of round the table thing.
Yeah. So very much in that spirit of travel that you were talking about with the Holy Family, and the image of Christmas as being a journey through what becomes really the whole narrative of salvation, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. The word became flesh and dwelt among us. Well, let's take that message out into the community and spread a little bit of cheer. I'm hoping to do some caroling, which is one of my favourite things to do. It might be on my own with the selfie kind of mode, going and singing around the parish, and put a carol out every day or so on the journey to Christmas. But I'm hoping that there'll be other creative things that other people will do that we'll just join in with too.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us, Alice. It's wonderful hearing, your thoughts about Christmas and that idea of hope as well, even in the midst of so much uncertainty. So thank you so much, and I hope that you have a marvellous Christmas with your family as well. So I'd like to welcome Becca Byas, who's going to share a little bit of her experience the last few months and what Christmas means to her in the context where she is working at the moment. Becca, do you want to say a little bit about who you are, where you are, and what your work currently involves in your ministry?
I would love to. I wear a couple of hats. I'm a mum to 2 teenage girls. I am a chaplain in a residential care home for MHA, and I am a wellbeing officer in the Nottingham and Derby Methodist District. It's hard to say what I do because my days change day by day. In residential care, I think we've got 34 residents at the moment, and I have 10 hours a week to go and befriend them, sit beside them, play with them. I get a bit too competitive, especially when it comes to carpet bowls. For some people, I will say that I was a barmaid before I was a chaplain, because I'm not there to inflict religion on them. I'm there to just have conversations. Sometimes they're big conversations, sometimes they're really bizarre conversations, but it's that kind of befriending and getting beside people where they are. So yeah.
Could you say a little bit about how the last few months since the COVID pandemic began, how that has been in your particular care home?
So in my particular care home, we've been incredibly fortunate. We've had about 8 cases. 3 of those people have been poorly. We've only had 1 death. Other people have recovered. And the other people were all asymptomatic. I think we've had a couple of carers who were poorly but are now back at work. With all of it, especially in a care home where and we have seen viruses spread very quickly. Last year, we were getting ready for Christmas. We had our choir all ready to go. We had rehearsed through November, and then we were wiped out by flu really, really quickly. So all of us, including me, just went down with it, and we were like, we're not going to be singing any time in the next month. And so with the virus, it's not been a new thing. We are good at containing viruses, and you see that in how professional people are in putting on PPE and washing hands, but you're much more aware of it at the moment. So we've been working within the restrictions of that, and the pain of saying no to visitors. I think that's probably been the biggest thing. We had someone have 104 birthday which was mega, and it was in the newspaper, and the newspaper opened it up to their readers about whether or not we should be allowing people in to visit residents. And I know one resident caught the virus after a visit, even though we'd gone to all of the precautions and all the safety measures. So it's been difficult from that sense. But the flip side of it is that we've had some really smug residents, because when all the churches were closed, we were not. And for people who you think someone who's moved into a residential home, they have left where they have set up house, where their home was. They've left the majority of their belongings. They now exist in one room in a house with a load of other old people, and that's not always a good thing if you don't see yourself as old yet, but you are. And so it's quite difficult to feel a sense of belonging and place and home. And yet COVID has drawn a barrier around us. We've become a bubble, they've become a household, which means that they've started to define their place and belonging based on who they do get to see. They have been grateful that they get to go out and hang with their friends, that they get to have meals with people, that they get carers coming in and out of their room. All the precautions are taken, but they know if they were at home, they wouldn't have any of it. And one of the greatest measures of that has been a group formed and asked whether they could come and start their own church service, where nobody else in the country was able to meet in person during that time. They could. And so we've not been able to have communion. We've not been able to do some of the things that make up being church. But we have been able to do purpose, and we've been able to practice gratitude and awe and wonder, and really notice the things to be grateful for. So I will get called urgently into someone's bedroom to go and look at the beautiful tree outside their window, because the little things now matter in a way that when people can come and go in the home as long as it's safe, but COVID has created such a restriction that those little things and the people and the connection and the gratitude has just shone out. So we've got this kind of really difficult story of being elderly and disabled in some way, that you now have to live in residential care with all the support that goes with that, but also the joy of defining who you are based on the people you can see. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Kind of weird and good and bad, and yeah.
And thinking